Assalamu alaikum. Today on Nunan Academy, we discussed Al-Biruni. If you benefit, please support by subscribing and sharing as a sadaqah.
So how vast is Allah's earth? It's a huge question, right? One that really speaks to the sheer majesty of His creation. I mean, for us today, the answer is just a quick search away. We pull out our phones, type it in, and boom! Satellites give us the number in seconds. But I want you to just take a moment and imagine asking that same question 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, back then, with no satellites, no spacecraft, nothing like that, this wasn't just some fun fact you'd look up. It was a monumental challenge. To even begin to answer it, you needed a totally different kind of toolkit. You needed a brilliant mind, a solid, disciplined method, and, maybe most importantly, an unshakable faith that the universe actually made sense.
And you know, this wasn't just some abstract academic quest. Far from it. Accurately measuring the world was a real, practical need for civilization. It was something that touched every part of daily life and, crucially, the practice of the faith.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got sailors out on the open seas. They need good maps to get where they're going. Merchants are trying to establish trade routes. They need to know the right distances. Whole societies relied on accurate calendars to function. And of course, for the Ummah, knowing the direction of the Qibla and the correct prayer times, well, that requires a pretty sophisticated understanding of geography. But beyond all that, there was something deeper. To measure the world was to get a better glimpse, a better appreciation of the sheer scale of Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation.
So, this brings us to the man who would take on this incredible challenge. And to really get what he did, we first have to understand how he thought. See, for him, his science and his belief weren't two separate things. Not at all. His science was actually a direct result of his faith.
For Abu Rayhan Al-Biruni, it all started with a core principle. Creation follows the laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in place. He reasoned that because the universe comes from a perfect creator, it just can't be random or chaotic. It has to be orderly. It has to be balanced, and if it's orderly then, it must be measurable. The laws of physics, the patterns in the stars, all of it was a reflection of divine wisdom.
And this right here, this is the key to his genius. He didn't sit around wishing for better tools. He didn't look at what he didn't have and see limitations. No, he looked at what he did have and saw possibilities. His lab wasn't some high-tech facility. His laboratory was the world itself. He just climbed a mountain.
And it's this exact mindset that led him to one of the most beautiful and elegant experiments in the history of science. What Al-Biruni came up with was a method so clever, so ingenious in its simplicity, that it's still, to this day, just an incredible testament to the power of human reason and careful observation.
So how did he do it? It's amazing, really. First, he went up a mountain that had a known height. From the top, looking out over a flat plain or the sea, he measured the angle of the horizon's dip. Basically, how much the horizon dropped below a perfectly flat line. With just those two pieces of information, the mountain's height and that angle, he could apply the principles of trigonometry and geometry. He basically created a giant right-angled triangle in his mind, with one point at the mountaintop, one at the horizon, and the third at the center of the Earth. From there, he could calculate the Earth's radius, and then its circumference. Just pure intellectual brilliance.
Okay, but the result? The result of this experiment is what's just absolutely mind-blowing. Al-Biruni's calculation came out to be 99.7% accurate when you compare it to our modern satellite data. Let me say that again, 99.7%. 1,000 years ago, with nothing but a mountain and the mind Allah gave him, he got that close. He was within a whisper of the exact number we have today. Just incredible.
But here's the thing. If we just call Al-Biruni an astronomer or a geographer, we're completely missing the bigger picture. His search for knowledge wasn't something you could just stick in one little box. It was this all-encompassing, holistic quest to understand Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala's world in every single one of its facets.
This man was a true polymath, a seeker of truths in so many fields. We're talking astronomy, geography, physics, anthropology, pharmacology, history, you name it. He wrote groundbreaking works on everything from how dense minerals are to the customs of the people of India. For him, every one of these fields was just another window, another way to look out and see the beautiful, intricate workings of the universe.
And this is so important because his approach shows us something fundamental about the Islamic intellectual tradition. For him, science didn't weaken faith, it actually strengthened it. The act of discovering physical laws, of observing nature, it wasn't a threat to his belief, quite the opposite. It was a path to an even deeper sense of awe, a greater certainty in the Creator.
And his own words really sum it all up perfectly. He said the universe is evidence of its creator. Just think about that. For him, every single formula, every measurement he took, every observation he made, it was all just another piece of evidence, another proof pointing right back to the perfection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Science for him was an act of worship, an act of witnessing.
So that brings us to the big question for today, right? What can we learn from his legacy 1,000 years later? In our world, where we're drowning in information and have all this amazing technology, his lessons are, I think, more relevant than ever.
What Al-Biruni's life really screams out to us is the need for balance. Think about it. Knowledge without a sense of awe, well, that just becomes arrogance. But on the other hand, worship without any curiosity about the incredible world Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made for us, that could just become empty routine. Islam calls for both. It calls us to be thinkers who worship and worshipers who think.
He measured the world with a mountain and a mind. He didn't make excuses. He didn't wait for things to be perfect. He just took the tools that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him, a mountain and his intellect, and he did something truly extraordinary. What a powerful lesson. Our greatest tools are the mind we've been given and our trust in Allah.
So Al-Biruni measured the world with what was available to him. And that leaves us with a question for ourselves, doesn't it? In our time, with all the tools and knowledge we have at our fingertips, what mountains are we willing to climb? What impossible problem will you solve now?
Presented and created by Norian Studio.